Do you love flat, clean surfaces, but you're afraid if things are out of sight, they will also be out of mind? Today I'm sharing 3 habits that can replace the habit of putting everything on flat surfaces, and I'm excited for your spaces to feel clear and clean. Let's say you need to call Rose at this phone number. You need to mail this sometime in the next 20 days, and you need to work on this big project that has a whole bunch of papers and outlines and things all over your computer desktop, associated files. There's just tons of stuff. What you may do right now in order to remember is lay it all out on your flat surfaces so you can see all the parts, and it feels kind of comforting, right? To have it all in front of you so you know, okay, call, mail, work on this. However, what happens if someone moves these things? Then you look down and you think, oh my goodness, where did everything go? How do you feel? Do you feel a little panicked, a little worried? You're thinking, how am I going to remember what I need to do? That's what I want to solve for you. This out of sight, out of mind concept is really dear to my heart because when I was growing up, we had stuff all over and that was just how I worked. And then when I started running my own household and having our own family, I would lay things out in those little piles. But then every time I would walk around the home, things would be yelling at me, saying, do this, buy this, fix this, call me, like all these things. And the house never felt quiet and calm because every item represented something that I was failing at or something that I needed to do right then and I didn't have enough time. And on a more personal note, I lost my mother to Alzheimer's several years ago, but for 7 years I watched her decline. And there was one day I went over and her room was just covered with everything. Everything was out. And I said, okay, Mom, I'm gonna clean with you. So Eric stayed with our little young children. I went to her home for a full day and we cleaned and organized and put everything in boxes and shelves and bins, and it looked beautiful. Well, I went back to her house a week later and everything was out again. I didn't know she had Alzheimer's at the time. But when you think about it, if someone doesn't remember, literally, if something isn't out in front of them, it doesn't exist. And what I want you to be able to do is have peace of mind to know that everything is safe, but it can be put away so you don't need to have that constant noise around you and the overwhelm from the stuff sitting on flat surfaces. Habit number 1, check lists instead of flat surfaces. But here are a few things about the list that I want you to remember. First, the lists need to be few in number. So if you look at our diagram of our Step Command Central, you'll see daily, weekly, and as needed sections. But I want you particularly to pay attention to the calendar, the next actions lists, the projects lists, and routines lists. Those 4 are the keys to getting most of the things in your life done, and just having those few lists will make a big difference. Second, the lists need to have only a few things on them. Long lists don't get done, so learn to plan way less than you think you have time to do, and then you can have next in line lists ready to go. And third, the lists need to be trusted, meaning you don't use them sometimes. You use them consistently, so when you write something on a list, you know you'll get back to it. Habit number 2, put items in logical places, and if there are associated tasks or projects, then note with those tasks or projects where the items are located. A book I read called It's Here Somewhere taught me to organize by where I'm doing specific activities. So for example, in the kitchen, instead of having plastic bags over here and paper sacks over there, and then peanut butter here and knives here, and all of the bread, everything separate, you'd have like a sandwich making center. So you could just gather everything you need if you make sandwiches frequently. So I started organizing my kitchen by, I'm gonna have a little baking center, and then we'll have a little cooking center and a lunch making center. And that made it a lot easier. So when you start to organize your space, if you can think of putting things in centers, that's going to make things a lot easier. There's also an excellent book by Julie Morgenstern called Organizing from the Inside Out. She recommends that you work with the natural flows of your household instead of trying to force people to do things a certain way. So let's say everyone always just drops their mail in one spot, but the mail sorter is like over another spot. Just move the mail sorter and put it where everyone naturally drops it. So you can do the same thing with shoes or with keys or things like that, but just kind of working with the habits of your family. And then one of the keys that I think will make this so easy for you is if you really do note, okay, I'm working on this project and all these materials are on this second shelf in the study or something like that, then when you go to work on that, you don't have to think, oh, where did I put that? Because it might seem obvious and you might think, oh, I'll remember. But when you multiply that by hundreds of different projects, some you're doing now, some you might not be doing for a few years, it really is easy to forget. So for example, I have 2 projects with my parents' items that I'm working on right now. I have several bins of my dad's that has papers and family history items, and then I have a couple of bins of my mom's journals. So those are 2 like next in line projects for me. I'm not doing them right this minute, but when I recorded those projects, I wrote dad's bins are out in the garage on the bottom shelf, and my mom's bins are upstairs in a closet near my office. So when I do decide, hey, I'm gonna go work on this project, I'm not thinking, oh, where did I put those bins? Like, I already know where they are. Habit number 3 is to stop the dropsies. That's what my mom called what we did every day when we got home from school. She'd say, you all have the dropsies, because we'd come in the door and we would just throw everything down, our bags, our papers, or old lunch bag, whatever it was, everything got dropped. So instead, what we do is when we get home, we just take a few minutes to put things back where they go. So like if I come in from a long day and I've got, a cooler or water bottle that goes right in the kitchen, the sink, empty things out, get it rinsed really quick. If I have shopping bags, I'll go ahead and put things directly in the fridge if they need to, or I'll put it at least in the general area where it's going to go. So things that will go in the pantry, I sit right here. Things that are going to go downstairs, I sit right by the downstairs door. So it's things like that where if you just take a moment, hang up the coat, take care of that little item, it's just going to save time and you're going to be able to keep things flat because you won't do that dropping. But this doesn't just happen, you actually have to plan for it. So the rule in my mind is when I'm about to get home, I always leave about 20 minutes of energy so I have that energy to put things away. And so I know it feels a little weird, but if you always maybe leave the event a little earlier or plan, rally the troops and say, hey, as we get home, here's what we're going to do. We're not just going to drop everything. That's going to help you to maintain the flat surfaces and have a lot of peace around it. Now let's go back to those 3 examples that we discussed earlier. All right, we're going to first call Rose sometime on Friday. I'm going to go ahead and just write this on my calendar as a flexible task for Friday and just put the number right there. Now, if I might need this later, I could take a picture and store this digitally, or I could put her contact in my phone. But that way I can just get rid of the card, right? All right, next, I need to mail this sometime in the next 20 days. I'm going to put this on my errands list for this week, because why not just get done this week? And then I'll put this out in the car so it's ready when I'm available to run that errand. And then this big project I need to finish for work, if I need to get this done in the next few days, I'm going to put this on my current projects list. Because this is coming up soon, I might actually schedule time to work on it on my calendar if I need to block out some chunks of time. And then I will note on the project that this is in my work cubby. So I've got my support materials, I have a work section, and I can easily just put these right in there so they're available. And then when it's time for me to get that work done, I just go grab it, right? It makes it so simple. And you don't have to be a mean and cranky person to make this happen. I received a comment recently where someone said, if you have a clean house, it means that you are a very mean person because you're going around telling everyone what to do. And I will say, sometimes I have heard from some of my children that as they were growing up, they're like, I didn't like it when you made us put things away. I was tired. I didn't feel like it. But the thing is, all of them do it now in their own lives. And I was talking to my teenage son the other day, and he said, yeah, someone came up to me at school and said, does your mom just make you clean all the time? Because they know what I teach here at LearnDoBecome. And he's like, no, she sends me, a text every Saturday of my Saturday jobs, and we just kind of clean up as we go, but it's not that big of a deal. He said, I should come on your podcast and tell everyone about it. So he may be coming on the podcast soon. The idea is that as we teach basic routines that just help the overall home to function well, and this is going to boil over into your work time, your workspace, you're just going to notice that everyone feels a little bit happier. People feel comfortable inviting friends over. It's easy to focus on things. It's easy to start new projects and get the projects finished because you've got the focus list. And you just start feeling like things are just rolling without a lot of friction. So I hope this was helpful to you. Please leave comments, questions, suggestions. I love hearing more from you, and there are awesome videos here on the channel to go deeper into all the parts of the Command Central if you want more of that. We're so glad you're here, and we'll see you soon at LearnDoBecome.